evening, everyone, and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Corpus Christi. I'm the Reverend Christina Hockman. Welcome. I'd like to welcome you all to this holy place and to this sacred time. We gather to honor and remember Milton Clasen. It's his life that brings us here together today, whether in person or online. We are here together in celebration and gratitude, as well as in sadness and in grief. It is our custom in this church to light a chalice to mark the beginning of our sacred time together. So I'm going to ask Milton's daughters, Clara and Laura, to come up and light the chalice while I share these words. We light this flame as our fervent plea to brighten the dark corners of our hearts. We hold this flame, for in it is the promise of warmth for souls grown cold in loss and despair. We kindle this light that we might continue to find comfort in its warmth, strength in its light, holiness in its presence. We follow this light that it might illuminate our search for purpose, for meaning, and forgiveness. We light this chalice, knowing even as the sacred spark of life is extinguished, in the ensuing darkness, its light, Milton's light, will still burn bright with all the memory and hope of its all too brief flash across our lives. We light this flame of life, of love and truth for the divine promise of healing hearts. Thank you. So at a later point in this service, we will ask friends and family of Milton to share their remembrances and their stories, their memories. And as I know some of you are joining us on the live stream today, I hope you will participate too. If you have some words that you would like to share, please email them, and I will read them later in the service. The email address is contact@uucorpus.org. One more time, that's contact@uucorpus.org. And please be sure to include your name in your message as well. When I remember Milton, the thing that stands out the most for me is his thoughtful responses to whatever topic we were talking about on Sunday morning church services. You know, in his really gentle and really cordial way, he would always have something really valuable to say. And I would often hear these nuggets from Milton in the receiving line after church was over. And then he would share a little something from the service that connected with him. And you might not know this, but this is the kind of stuff that makes ministers really happy, because our greatest fear is that everyone has slept through the entire church service, right? So when so hearing from this really engaged congregant like Milton, who was really paying attention and really, absorbing the message, that's so reassuring for ministers like me. But other times I didn't receive Milton's thoughtful and intelligent responses at church. I received them by email. A few days after service, I would get an email from Milton, and I'm going to share one of those with you. This is an email he sent, and he shared a bit of his family history and his wife's family history. And this was all in response to me recommending that the congregation read a book called Uprooting Racism by Paul Keibel. So this is what Milton said. Christina, I have read a couple sections of Uprooting Racism. Of interest to me were the sections People of Mixed Heritage and Latino-Latina. I married a descendant of the early Spanish pioneers of Texas. Among them were Spaniards who lived in Los Adeas as early as 1721. It was once the capital of Texas, but it was located near what is now Robeline, Louisiana. Lydia and I visited the site. All that remains of the settlement is a well. Since you are new to Texas, I would recommend consulting the New Handbook of Texas. Now there's a librarian for you, right? You may want to read about Garza Falcone, described as the first settler in what is now Nueces County. Also, there is the article about Carlos de la Garza of the Carlos Rancho, which was located in what is now Victoria County by the San Antonio River. Lydia is buried at the de la Garza Cemetery, which was part of this ranch. I recently contributed items for the exhibit Mi Familia, Mi Comunidad at the Connor Museum on the campus of Texas A&M University, Kingsville. Then he goes on to talk about his side of the family. He says, my own mother, Agnes, was in a school in the Grand Island, Nebraska. It was a half day in English and a half day in German. When the U.S. became involved in World War I, there was a great negative reaction to things German all across the country, including Grand Island. My family made a point of speaking English from then on. However, when I was a child, my grandmother Quant still sometimes went to services in German at St. John's Lutheran Church in Orange, California. I was confirmed at that church. So this is the kind of thoughtfulness and willingness to share in his understated way that made Milton really special, I think. And his willingness to share these little bits of history with me made me feel kind of special too. And I imagine I am probably not alone in these feelings, in these experiences. So before we hear from family and friends, I'd like to share with you a little reading, and I think Milton would like it. As a big astronomy enthusiast and someone who is able to think of the world on universal terms, I think he would appreciate it. It's called Without Death, and it was written by Michael Dowd and Connie Barlow. Without the death of stars, there could be no planets and no life. Without the death of creatures, there would be no evolution. Without the death of elders, there would be no room for children. Without the death of plants and animals, there would be no food. Without the death of old ways of thinking, there would be no room for the new. Without death, there would be no ancestors. Without death, time would not be precious. What, then, are the gifts of death? The gifts of death are Mars and Mercury, Saturn and Earth. The gifts of death are the atoms of stardust within our bodies. The gifts of death are the splendors of shape and form and color. The gifts of death are diversity, the immense joy of life. The gifts of death are food, the sustenance of life. The gifts of death are seeing, hearing, feeling, deeply feeling. The gifts of death are the urgency to act, the desire to fully be and become. The gifts of death are joy and sorrow, laughter and tears. The gifts of death are lives that are fully and exuberantly lived, then graciously and gratefully given up for now and forevermore. Now I would like to invite Irene Lopez up to share some words.
Good evening. Clara and Laura would like to thank everyone here today, whether you are here in person or online. It is a comfort for them to know that so many people are here to remember their father. I am Irene Lopez, Milton's niece through Lydia, and I'd like to say a few words about him. Everyone knows that Milton was a very frugal person, but many may not have been as aware of his generous side. As you can see from the program, Milton supported many good causes, and I have to include myself on that list. Milton's and Lydia's generosity extended to me and my siblings. It took the form of many opportunities to expand our horizons. I got to travel and have new experiences. I went to Mexico City and Acapulco, California, Disneyland, and Washington, D.C. My brother Rudy, also known as Speedy, especially remembers the trip to D.C. that he and I and our sister Julie took at the time of the bicentennial. He fondly remembers eating paper-thin slices of steak tartare in the Smithsonian cafeteria. This was an exclusive restaurant, and we got to eat there because Milton was a member. We also remember the long road trip to get to D.C., with detours into Florida and Maryland so that we kids could say that we had been to those states. It was only half a mile, but we could say we'd been there. These are the opportunities we would not have had were it not for Milton. Milton was also one of the most intelligent people I have ever known. Through him, I was exposed to perspectives of religion and music outside of my experience. I learned about faith from different perspectives. Since I was a born Catholic, Milton made me aware of the Lutheran and Unitarian points of view. As far as music was concerned, Milton liked classical music, I think especially Baroque, and country. As a teenager, I was not fond of either of those genres. Consequently, on road trips, I would volunteer to drive, as the driver would have control of the radio. So, now, as an older and maybe wiser person, I love country and I also love classical music. I think of Milton when I listen to classical pieces. One more thing, as I look out on everyone and see all these masked faces, I also think of Milton. He always used a mask whenever he was outside. Who knew that at that time that we would all be wearing masks today? If anyone would like to come up and share a memory about Milton, we would love to hear it. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Clara. I'm his eldest daughter. I try to get through this, but I wanted to read the program for the people who are at the live stream and can't see the program. Let's see. Milton Gerhard Clasen was born in Riverside, California, to Agnes Clasen and Arnold Clasen on January 13th, 1941. He was raised in Orange, California, along with his brother Wayne Clasen, and graduated from Orange High School. He studied at California Concordia College, then went on to study psychology at Concordia Senior College in Fort Wayne, Indiana. From a young age, he wanted to be a pastor of the Lutheran faith, so he attended Concordia Seminary School in St. Louis, where he graduated with a master's degree in divinity in 1967. Well, after some soul searching, he had a change of heart and decided to switch to his other focus, his other great love books, so he went on to graduate from Louisiana State University with a master's degree in library science in 1969. He began his lifelong career as a catalog librarian for the James C. Jernigan Library at Texas A&M Kingsville. Then it was called Texas A&I. On July 1st, 1969. Milton officially retired in 2010, but he continued to work half-time at the library up until, current day, up until he was forced to go home because of quarantine. It was a month's shy of 51 years. Shortly after moving to Kingsville, he began attending the Unitarian Universalist Church here in Corpus Christi, where he met his future wife, Lydia Amador, on January 12, 1975. He said he backed into a canister of hot water for tea, and years later, Lydia joked that he'd been in hot water ever since. Apparently, she thought this clumsiness, due to being so nervous to talk to her, was endearing because they married on September 6, 1975. They had 2 children, Clara Amada Amador Clasen in 1977, that's myself, and Laura Irene Amador Clasen in 1981. Lydia preceded him in death at age 59 in 2001 due to breast cancer. They were married 26 years. Milton deeply loved both music and books. His favorite composer was Bach, and his favorite author was Bart D. Ehrman. Milton was also interested in writing poetry and astronomy. He was the treasurer and longtime member of the Kingsville Astronomical Society, and he would often go to the public viewings at Tamux Observatory to view celestial bodies using their giant 16-inch telescope. He was also a licensed ham operator. His call sign was KE5LCX. Milton thought it was extremely important to donate blood and would proudly wear his many t-shirts he received for doing so. He was very pleased to be able to continue donating right up until February of this year. His doctor okayed it for him. Milton also contributed to a number of charities, including CARE, Sierra Club, the Nature Conservatory, St. Joseph's Indian School, the National Museum of Native American, Christian Appalachian Project, Southern Poverty Law Center, St. Jude's Hospital, as well as PBS, the Smithsonian, and KEDT radio station. He would also regularly donate to his alma mater, Concordia Seminary. And his brother, Wayne Clasen, sent an email to me wanting me to read this for him. My brother Milton, a more honest person you will probably never meet, slow, thoughtful, and careful in all that he would do. He and I are 4 years different in age. Although we share many of the same traits, we were really quite different. He, from a very young age, wanted to be a pastor, and I'm sure that made the family very happy. Books were his greatest love. No surprise he ended up at a library. Probably his favorite place to spend time when not with his family was the library. I am proud to say he was my brother, a good father to his daughters, and a friend to many of you here. Brother Wayne. And on the back, there's 2 poems that he wrote about space exploration. And he'd like to write lots of poems. We have stacks of them. It was quite a task going through all of them, trying to find the ones that we wanted to use, but we settled on these 2. This one is about the SpaceX astronaut launch on May 30th, 2020. You know, the Elon Musk one. In a ship with little room, to the moon men did zoom, back to Earth they came, things will never be the same. And then he wrote another one, and I think this was about when he went to the observatory and saw Venus and Mars together. I'm not quite sure about this, but it was on January 30th, 2020, so maybe there's a correlation there, I don't know. How brightly shines the Venus hell, its glow just casts a lovely spell. Its obscured face has now been seen, to visit it we're not so keen. Some would rather visit Mars, but radiation poses such great bars. He had quite a sense of humor in his poetry. I also have some cards that were sent to us. This is from Bruce Schuneman. Oh, this is from the library. You gave this to me, okay. Because of the COVID-19, most of the Jernigan Library staff is working remotely, but I am sure they have conveyed their condolences. With deepest condolences for your loss. My deepest condolences for your loss, Ms. Clasen. Mr. Clasen was a great man. I enjoyed working with him. Sincerely, Gabriel. I can't read that. And that's basically from all of the people, his coworkers at the library. And my name is Annette Sorensen, and though I've never met you, I'm the cousin of Milton. My father, Carl Quant, was the brother of Milton's mother, who was my Aunt Agnes. I remember many fun outings at the home of Aunt Agnes, and the cousins would always end up in Wayne and Milton's room. And I have a favorite story to share. Aunt Agnes always set up 2 tables to accommodate all the Quant families for dinners. Because the tables were different heights, she put tablecloths on one to make it the same height as the other. But when we sat down, many of the glasses on the table that were filled with water toppled over, and we couldn't stop laughing. We always had fun retelling that story. Please note that I am praying for you. My husband passed away 13 and a half years ago when our sons were just 18 and 23. On the anniversary of my husband's death, we always tried to meet together in person. And if that's not possible, we FaceTime so we can remember the incredible man that he was. It is my hope that you'll find a way to remember your father as well. With love and sympathy, Annette. That was a card from his brother. I'm sending a gift card to you and Clara. It's a gift card to Applebee's. It is my hope that both of you go and have a meal together and talk about all the good things your father has done for you and some of the good times. My brother was truly a thoughtful, caring person. I'm sure he always wanted what was best for both of you. Now it will be up to both of you to try and live the lives he would have wished for you. You know how have each other to share concerns on the good times with. Talk with each other about your future plans and what your father would have wanted. God gave us 10 commandments and his word to live by. He did not say you had to belong to a single sect. He wanted all of us to have a personal relationship with Jesus. Talk, share, pray daily in your lives with all your concerns. Uncle Wayne. And this is from Karen and Bill Wenzel. Dear Clara and Laura, sending deepest sympathies to both of you with the passing of your dad, Milton. Milton was my cousin. Milton was the oldest of the cousins in the Quant side of the family. Milton was always the nicest guy, always calm, always friendly to everyone. He will be missed. Milton and I would converse via email at times, and as you know, your dad did some genealogy, and he would share that with me. Milton and I were also friends on Facebook, too, and would like each the other post from time to time. Clara, as you know, you were named after your great-grandmother, Clara Quant, and Laura, you actually have the same name as my grandmother on my mother's side of the family. 2 beautiful names. My dad, Carl Quant, was Milton's uncle, and my mother, Mildred Quant, was Milton's aunt. Your grandmother, Agnes, was the firstborn of the 5 Quant children. My dad, Carl, was the second to the youngest. I know your Uncle Wayne quite well. We kept in close touch. He is such a great guy, too. We live in California, so we will not be able to attend a memorial service, but we will definitely be thinking of you on that day. Again, our serious sympathies on the passing of your dad, Karen and Bill Wenzel. Okay. That's like all the cards that we've received so far. I just wanted to share them with everybody. I don't know what else to say. I mean, like, I could say so much about my dad. He was just a kind, gentle man, but like, if I keep going, I'm gonna cry. So, thank you.
Hi, I'm Laura Clasen, Milton's youngest daughter. I just wanted to read a poem that my dad wrote. It's actually the last poem he actually wrote. It won't make sense unless I explain it, but I'll read it first. It says, Magic Kitty and the 2-inch drain stopper. Who is it who can top her? First there was the attic leak, which led to 2-week motel streak.
She worked on a tub and shower stall. Much it was she did install. Her kayak had an unusual role in helping to achieve her goal. She did what she could, knew water drains as it should. So, in the last month of his life, he had taken up to calling me Magic Kitty instead of my other username, NecroKitty, which is my Facebook. And he was calling me that because I had been on a water fast. And at the time of this writing, I think I was already close to 20 days, just living off water and electrolytes. And he thought that was magic that I was not suffering doing this. The 2-inch drain stopper is actually a scupper stopper that fits into my kayak. It's a sit-on top one. If you don't want water to because it would drain the water out through there, but if you get into it, it'll splash water through the drain and get your butt all wet. So I got these stoppers to stop it all up. And we had an attic leak that involved the water leaking through our attic into our front room and our house flooding a little bit just a month ago. So I've been dealing with that. But we had it repaired, and while it was being repaired, because those plumbers were taking their sweet time, my dad was at a motel streak, so he was at a motel, and he was actually quite enjoying it, to be honest. I re-epoxied the whole shower stall, and I installed new drains and everything, and I was having a devil of a time getting it to drain, because a little bit of stuff had gotten down into the drain, and I couldn't. All my normal methods weren't working. And then I realized I could take the 2-inch stopper drain from my kayak, stuff it into the drain hole, and then I used a plunger on, which is the overflow of the tub, and I plunged that, and I magically got all the drain to unclog completely. And that is after doing lye and Drano and all sorts of other chemicals just to dissolve it. It wouldn't dissolve. But using my kayak stopper, it fixed it. So he wrote a poem about it. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to come up and speak? We did have a couple of emails come in. This one is from Mike and Bobby Reed, who are church members here. It's for Milton and Lydia. It says, "We always valued their friendship and missed them. Milton was a credit to his profession. We shall miss him dearly. Our deep condolences to his family." And the other one is also from Karen Wenzel, extending sincere sympathies to Clara and Laura and Milton's brother Wayne. This is from his cousin, Karen, and family from Thousand Oaks, California. We are sorry that we could not join in Milton's memorial service today, but our thoughts, special memories, and prayers are with Milton and family today. Milton was always kind to his young cousins. Milton did have a special interest in family history, which he shared at times with me via email. So apparently I was not the only one. We will miss him. We are so glad that he knew the Lord, and we know that he is now in heaven. with many of our dear family members that have passed on, knowing the Lord is the most treasured possession we have on earth. Sincerest sympathies, Karen Quant, Wenzel, and family. Again, is there anyone who would like to share anything else? Just to make sure, okay. Well, that actually brings us to the close of our service, and I would like you to join me in the spirit of prayer. Spirit of life, God of many names, help us remember that our grief is a holy thing. It is proof that another life touched ours in a profound way. It is the mark of love, the mark of connection, and the mark of a life well lived. We will mourn, we will cry, we will miss Milton. Time will move on, and we may not hurt like we hurt now, but then a thought or a bit of music or something will remind us of him, and it will all come back. Help us remember that though those moments too are holy, they're reminders of that connection that will never go fully away. It's important to hold on to that connection because it is through those memories that Milton stays with us. In our memories of him, that love and connection stay alive and are eternal. We shared some of those memories today. Help us hold on to those memories. Tell the stories that make us smile, the stories that make us laugh. Share the memories with people who knew him and the people who did not. May they remind us of the beauty of life, of his presence and his connection to us. And may this love that never ends bring us peace on this day and all days going forward. Amen.